Hello, hello. I am back to help you do this thing called life. So, I've been praying for you, right? And I hope you're still praying for me. Yesterday, when I talked to you, I was talking about Naaman and simple obedience and how so many times we don't want to do. We say we want the healing or we say we want whatever it is, but we're not willing to follow the instructions to get what we say we want. And so after I recorded yesterday, then I was in there just talking to my mom and dad, and my dad heard me mention Naaman, and he started talking about some things. And I was like, ooh, okay, yeah, that's good. So if you're not familiar with the story of Naaman, I don't want to read it all, but it's in 2 Kings chapter 5. 2 Kings chapter 5. But at the very beginning of the chapter, it talks about Naaman. He was a commander of the army. And it says, he was well-to-do. Well, I'm going to read the first verse, okay? It says, the king of Aram had great admiration for Naaman, the commander of his army, because through him, the Lord had given Aram great victories, or Aram, I don't know. But though Naaman was a mighty warrior, he suffered from leprosy. And this is the New Living Translation. And so, I went on to tell you how there was a young girl, one of the handmaidens, who said that she really wished Naaman would go to see the prophet in Samaria because she just knew he would be healed of the leprosy. So I'm going to skip down to the 9th verse. There's a lot that went on in there, but I'm skipping to the 9th. And it says, so Naaman went with his horses and chariots and waited at the door of Elisha's house. Oh, because Elisha, when he heard about it, he had said to send him to him. Elisha is the prophet. So Naaman went and waited at the door of Elisha's house. But Elisha sent a messenger out to him with a message. Go and wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan River. Then your skin will be restored, and you will be healed of your leprosy. But Naaman became angry and stalked away. I thought he would certainly come out to meet me, he said. I expected him to wave his hand over the leprosy and call on the name of the Lord his God and heal me. Aren't the rivers of Damascus, the Abana, and the Pharpar better than any of the rivers of Israel? Why shouldn't I wash in them and be healed? So Naaman turned and went away in rage. But his officers tried to reason with him and said, Sir, if the prophet had told you to do something very difficult, wouldn't you have done it? So you should certainly obey him when he says simply, go and wash and be cured. So Naaman went down to the Jordan River and dipped himself 7 times, as the man of God had instructed him. And his skin became as healthy as the skin of a young child, and he was healed. Okay, so, and that stopped at the 14th verse. And there is more, but that really got me to thinking, because we talked about how it was simple obedience, but you just look at Naaman going there, knowing that he has a need, knowing that he has leprosy, and you would think that he was ready to do whatever was told of him. Whatever the prophet said, you would have thought that he would have run to do it, because nothing else could heal leprosy. Nobody but God. And so you would think that he would want to do that, but he was upset, number one, because I guess he was all that. And Elisha sent a messenger to the door. So he was upset about that. Then he was upset about what he was told to do. Because he's like, Well, surely I thought he would have just come out here and waved his hand. Didn't he say wave his hand across me? Yeah. I expected him to wave his hand over the leprosy and call on the name of the Lord his God and heal me. Don't that sound like us? Let me go to the altar and be prayed for. And then we wanted to poof, be gone. And that is not how God works all the time. Now, sometimes in his grace and his mercy, he will heal that way. But that's not always the case. So, when they told him what to do, he was like, man, all these other rivers, and he wants me to go dip in Jordan. Because they say Jordan was really muddy, dirty river. And he's like, why wouldn't he tell me to dip in one of those? And so I told y'all yesterday that, some of the servants said, well, if it was something hard, wouldn't you do that? But he just said, go and wash and be cured. And so this is where my dad comes in. Daddy said that there was some preacher who he had heard preach about this long time ago. And the preacher was saying that he could just imagine, because Naaman was already ticked off, right? Already insulted. And so when he got there to Jordan and got in the river and dipped, and then he told him dip 7 times, right? And so he dipped, and Daddy said, the preacher was saying he could imagine it. By that 5th time, when he dipped and came back up and still had leprosy, saw no kind of difference, saw nothing going on, he felt like, just like I expected. Ain't nothing even happening. Nothing but in dirty water. And he dipped again. And see, I knew this was foolishness anyway. And dipped one more time. And when he dipped that 7th time, he came up healed. Y'all, how many times have we started a thing and then stopped it because it didn't look like what we thought it would look like? It didn't look like it was producing anything. It looked like, what's the use? Now, Naaman had the privilege of being told 7 times, right? But so many times the Lord doesn't tell us how many times. He just tells us to do it. I'm going to be 125% honest with y'all. I know I say I'll be back tomorrow with another moment. But I don't know how many tomorrows there are. I mean, there are times before that I knew it was 21 days and I stopped. But I don't even know how many days I've been doing this now. I honestly don't. I just know. Emotional, yes. Ooh. I just know that God told me to do this. I don't know how many times. And I don't know what my obedience is doing. Yeah, there are some things that I've prayed for, but I don't know which obedience is going to answer that prayer. Because tell me this, what about dipping in a dirty river looks like healing? Naaman wanted to be healed of leprosy. Obviously, the leprosy was bothering him. I mean, the nature of leprosy was, bothersome. But for the maidservant to be like, oh, she had to almost feel sorry for him. Oh, I wish he would go talk to the prophet. I know he can be healed. There was nothing else. But what? They have nothing to do with each other, right? Right? Being healed of leprosy and a muddy river. What do they have to do with each other? Obedience. Obedience. So then me getting on here, doing 1 more minute every day, what does that have to do with some of the prayers I've prayed? Some of the ways God has led me, be like, God, what you doing? But I do it. I'll be like, this, yeah, I don't see how does it connect, God? But I do it. Because in all actuality, I don't even know how God wants to bless me. I honestly don't. I know some things I've prayed for. I know some things I've been promised. But I don't know what it takes to get the manifestation. And so now this isn't just about Naaman, and this isn't just about me. This is about you too. What is it that you're asking God for? Okay, think about that. And then what is it that God has told you to do? Recognize this. What he told you to do may not even look like it has anything to do with what you prayed. But could it be that your obedience is the thing that's your obedience in this matter may cause God to unlock a door in that case. Even though it doesn't look like the obedience is connected to your promise. It could be in 2 different areas. You could be asking for a healing, and God could be telling you to go volunteer. Go serve. You could be asking for greater in your finances, and God is telling you to go check on somebody. I mean, y'all, it doesn't have to match. It doesn't have to match. Ooh, but your obedience needs to match the instruction. Because y'all, we never know what one act is going to open the floodgates. We never know what one act is going to release that latch in the windows of heaven that will pour you out a blessing that you won't have room enough to receive. We don't know. So what I encourage you to do is obey. I found myself today saying out loud some of the things I knew God told me to do. I was saying them out loud so to remind myself to do it. Y'all, we got to get the obedience. We got to get the obedience. So, yeah, don't stop. Whatever it is that God has told you to do, don't get discouraged. Don't feel like, what's the use? Naaman dipped 7 times. Like I said, it may be 20 times that God tells us to do the same thing. It may be 100 times that it may be 365. It might be years of obedience before you hit that spot that unlocks everything, that unlocks the very door for you to go into that place of exceeding abundantly above all that you can ask or think. We don't know where it is, but I can promise you it's inside of obedience. Well, y'all, this has been 1 More Minute with Marcy. I'll be back tomorrow with another moment of momentum producing inspiration. Until then, stay encouraged. And remember, we gotta flutter before we can fly. But flying is in our future. I love y'all.